So just about a week ago, I was doing my laundry and I had so much laundry to do. The machines in this particular laundromat were on the smaller side, but overall I was pretty confident that I could get it done until I realized that the machine I wanted to get quarters from didn't take 20s. And when I asked for change for that 20, I found out the machine also just didn't work. So I was very stressed out and I was without quarters. Okay. And the kindest, most generous woman I had pretty much met, because I had never met her in my life. But she was just like, do you just need quarters? Let me just, you know what? The banks are closed. They don't have, that's where you would get quarters. Let me help you. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna let you help me because I don't know what to do right now. And I felt like a teenager trying to just get anything done, right? And I just did not have the tools. And so this woman goes and grabs her bag of quarters and she says, just use what you need. Let me know when you're done. So I fill up the machine. She's like, do you have enough quarters? And I was like, honestly, no, but I'm willing, I'm able to make do. I'll figure this out. Like, you've already been so helpful. And she was like, no. Listen, I have some more quarters in my car. You finish what you're doing here and I'll go get them. And as we were talking, I was putting quarters in the machine because I still had a few left. And the machine would not spit the quarter down like the shaft or whatever, so I could put the next quarter in. So she pulls out a literal Swiss Army knife and hands it to me. And I'm trying to whittle the quarter back because there's no like callback button where, the machine just kind of pushes the quarter over and it pushes the quarter down and you can pull it out and then put it back in the slot. So I'm doing that little motion. I get the quarter out and I'm putting these quarters in. And she goes and she grabs this other bag of quarters. She comes back and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? This was tough, but this woman was so kind. And she was so understanding. She went above and beyond what I would have ever asked a stranger for. And I was so grateful. And so I had this whole like feeling of gratitude and appreciation. And I wasn't even frustrated about the machines not working because it was like, whatever, like things happen, it'll be all right. That is until the owner of the laundromat came in and he was like frustrated. He was like, these doors need to stay open. And from that initial sentence, I knew that we were in trouble, so to speak, that like he was not going to be the most excited to hear that his machines also weren't working, because the very kind woman who helped me out with the machines also had a broken machine. So her machine didn't even go through the spin cycle. So her stuff was wet. My instinct was to help her, but honestly, there was nothing I could really do about it. Like I couldn't make the clothes drier. I had my daughter with me and she was just trying to help me like function as like a human. And she was like, don't worry, I'm just going to throw it in this dryer. And then when it's dry enough that I can put them in the car, I'm just going to dry these things at home. Cause this is the same problem that my own personal laundry machines are having. So, you live, you learn, whatever. And so she put her clothes into the drying machine and she was like going to go tell the guy, hey, my machine isn't working. And I let him know that the quarters, they were getting stuck in my particular machine, whatever. And he immediately was like, not my machine. Those quarters work for the quarter machine works perfectly fine. You probably just put a dirty quarter in there. And he was just like rancid with bad humor and like acrid as a spiritual being. If a vibe could have a scent, he would smell like a skunk. It was abrasive. And when the woman explained that her clothes didn't go through the spin cycle, even though they were on and all this stuff, he berated her about how his machine was just replaced and it cost him $10,000 and so they need to work, as if that was her problem. And then he was like going around saying like, what else isn't working? And he like left after yelling at me about the quarter machine. But as he was leaving, I was like, oh, and the door being closed actually really helped me because my daughter is running around here. And before I could even finish what I was saying, he was saying to me, well, it's a rule. The door has to stay open. It's too hot in here, as if he was doing his own personal laundry in the laundromat. Nobody inside the laundromat was complaining about the door being closed. Literally only the owner cared. and he wasn't doing his laundry. So it was very abrasive. And he was like, and that's just not my problem. Now, I felt so disappointed in humanity by that interaction because he came in on level 10 and rose to level 20 as far as like being unkind and unnecessarily brusque and crappy to everyone. And I could not put my finger on like what it was that was going on in his head. I didn't even care really what was going on in his head. He was like not with us, let's say. Like he was out somewhere else and he was bringing all his crap into that laundromat, but he didn't clean it up at all while he was in there. He left with his 7-year-old daughter. Like I could pinpoint her age. She looked like one of the second graders that I had been working with back in the day. And so I got really good at identifying second graders, excuse me. So I was like, he's got like a 7-year-old kid yelling at adults like this. That's not a good example. And also like he's yelling at a group of women. He should be embarrassed. Anyway, so he left. He's talking to his daughter about how dumb his patrons are in the parking lot, like going back and forth about like how people don't even pay attention. Like I was fuming. Like listening to this man talk crap about other people made me so frustrated. I was so upset. Oh, and I went back to my grandpa's house. I was like, Pop, I don't know if I can finish my laundry out there. Like, I might need to finish some of the stuff here because that man yelled at me. I did nothing wrong. I don't know what his problem was, but he was not just yelling at me. He was yelling at other people. It was not okay. Blah, 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 blah. So I finish off what I'm doing at my grandpa's. I go back to the laundromat because unfortunately I'd already started some machines and the owner is still there. When we're trying to get our little ones to listen, we are not just speaking to this entity, right? When we're trying to get adults to listen to us, we're not just talking to like this person who needs to do what I want them to do, right? When we want to compassionately communicate and we want to connect with another person and we want them to understand and do something, when we want to have an interaction with someone and they're not cooperating, sometimes it's not about meeting them where they are, nor is it about making them come to where you are. Sometimes it's about meeting them where you want to be. And that's what we're going to talk about in this podcast. So I have a little one, under one. She is the joy and the light of my life. And she is not always eager to listen to what it is that I have to say. And I have to keep my words pretty short and pretty small because she's also little. And so getting a rhythm of communication that we can work with is a lot about looking at what she's capable of doing as a person, what her developmental stage is, like what her language acquisition is, what her attention span is, and then curating my words to that capacity. So that's number one. That's meeting her where she is as far as like what words I use and what tools I use to communicate with her. But when it comes to bringing us to a place where we're no longer screaming, when we're no longer crying, when we're no longer having a tantrum, we have to meet that other person, whether they're big or small, where we want to go. And so if I want to be playful with my child and I want to have an easy time with my child and I want to lower the stress with my child, then I have to be a non-stressful, playful, joyful person towards her. And that is very hard to do when you're already riled up yourself, right? And so coming to a place where I can go where I want to be, bring her to where we both really ultimately want to be, I have to get there myself too. And so part of that is faking it until you make it. So let's go back to our laundry friend and let's think it through in practice. So I walked up to our laundry owner, our laundromat owner, and I said to him, "Hi there. I was here a little bit earlier. We were talking. You were a bit frustrated, and I wanted to talk to you about something really quickly. Can we do that?" And he said, "Okay." And he was like fingering through quarters, looking for gummy quarters. So he pulls out like all the, junk quarters that he didn't think should go into the machine. And he basically was like, "Okay, what's up?" So I say to him, okay, when you were telling me earlier that the doors needed to be open, I was completely fine with you having a rule. There's no sign that says that the doors have to remain open, and it would be very helpful if there was one, if that is in fact a rule for this establishment. I wouldn't have known until you came here, and they weren't open when I got here. So it's very helpful to me, a patron, to know that. And as far as the machines are concerned, I wanted you to know I wasn't jamming your machine. I was only doing the movement that you would do to return the quarter in any of the other machines that have a quarter return. I wasn't trying to like bash the quarter in. I wasn't trying to like bang your machine or break it in any way. And I just needed you to know that I was being very gentle. I was simply trying to get my quarter out so that I could finish filling the machine and do my laundry. And as I was talking to him, he was just talking, like he was still talking while I was speaking. And I knew he wasn't hearing me, but that he was just in defensive mode and not listening. And so his frontal cortex was turned off. Like his prefrontal cortex was not online, so to speak. And he was working solely from his amygdala. You could see that he was stressed out. He was shaking. He was moving the quarters very like frantically. And just talking the entire time I was talking. And so I was trying to get even more calm, which was stressful, but I was trying to get even more calm. And so I said, sir, literally said, sir, I just need you to hear me. So I'm not critiquing what you said, because he was still defending what he said. And I say to him, I'm not critiquing what you said. I heard you and I agree with you. And I think it's important that people follow the rules in places. So I'm glad you told me, right? Affirming him, recognizing what it is he said, and then getting back to the point, which was, please don't ever yell at me. And please don't speak to people the way that you spoke to myself and this very kind woman, who I know is very kind because she was very kind to me all day today. Please don't speak to us that way. And he was still stuck. He was still in that place. And I remember the woman who was in there, she was going out to her car. She had given me a whole fresh new bag of quarters, and she said, just keep it. It had to be like $20 in that bag of quarters that she just handed to me so I could finish my laundry in peace. And I was so grateful to her. I walked with her out of the laundromat, and she was like, girl, I don't know what crawled up that man's pants, but you did your best. You were trying really hard, and I appreciate that. And you know what? You just count your blessings that you're not like him. And I thought to myself, I mean, I don't need to count my blessings because God knows I could not be like him. I've lived a really, really complicated life. I've interacted with a lot of difficult people. I've been a difficult person. I love people and I love myself. And I know that we have the capacity to be the most amazing thing on the planet when we want to be and when we try to be and when we deem ourselves worthy to be. And I am of the opinion that we all deserve the space to become that if we haven't been living in that space on our own, that we can invite each other into that. And so, I was like, I hear you. I feel like that wasn't his best self. Like, you know what I mean? Like I still was like stuck on, there's gotta be a way to reach this man. And she was like, wash your hands, dust off your feet and keep going. And that was her message. And she did, in fact, do that. She went, got her truck. She ran around to the laundromat. She pulled her clothes out like she said she was going to. And she went home, not entirely in a huff because she had been such a kind person, but in this, I wish the world was better place, And I went to my grandpa's. I decompressed. I said, I'm doing my best here, Papa, but I'm not sure. So I'm just going to take this bag of laundry that I just finished. I'm going to put that away. I'm going to put this next laundry load in, and I'm going to, switch things up. So that's what I did. And then I went back to the laundry, and this guy was still there. And so I was like, okay, round 3, God, let's go. And I knew that there was just this responsibility that I had to myself to meet him where I wanted us to go. And I wasn't ready to give up. And I approached him prayerfully, mindfully, meditatively, however you want to see it, and where I needed us to go, where I believed that we could go. And I said to him again, hey, I really appreciate that you put a lot into this place, that this business matters to you. I've been coming here since I was a little girl. I didn't realize that you own this place. That's really cool. And now I'm here with my daughter. I just wanted to be able to do my laundry. And I noticed that there were some things that weren't working. And because I care about your ability to run a smooth business, I told you, the owner, because you have the power to do something about it. I don't want you to feel like I'm critiquing or picking apart your hard work. I just want you to see that these machines weren't working, that we were doing everything in our power to work around that, but that ultimately the responsibility is yours, and it's our responsibility as patrons to let you know. I want to be able to come to this place and enjoy this place and this space with my daughter safely. And so the door being closed was helpful to me, but I didn't open those doors. I didn't put the little thing down. I didn't make them stay open. And there's no sign saying that you can't have the doors be closed. So I understand everything that you said. I just need you to hear that I didn't come here for a fight. I didn't come here to ruin your day, that I actually like it in this place, and I'd like to continue to like it in this place. And it's interesting because he went from telling me to go do my laundry somewhere else just a little while ago to saying, I really was thinking about what you said, and I should not have yelled at you. I should not have talked to you that way. And I'm very sorry, because there's no excuse for that. And the turnaround from that moment, it took 3 tries, mind you, but the turnaround from that moment, it was like we were going from that to being friendly, because then he was like, I just had this really stressful day, and it looked like he just needed to speak to someone who was an adult about his day. And so I was the sacrificial lamb. And he tells me about how he had a guest over. There were things going on in his life. His world was being a little bit funky. He had back to school for his daughter. He still had a school shop. He was under the pressure of about 3 different households worth of work. He had his personal and professional life. He had his daughter's educational life. And then he had his ex-wife's world that he had to kind of integrate into. And he was really just trying to make it on that day. And he came into that laundromat with a lot of baggage. And he saw a bunch of women who needed something. And he just dealt with all these different things from all these different women in his life. And he had a meltdown, not a tantrum. He had a meltdown. He was overwhelmed. He did not want to see one more thing break. He was way overdue for a hug from somebody. It wasn't coming from me, but he was way overdue for a hug. That man needed a break, and he wasn't giving it to himself. So I gave it to him instead. And I let him say what he needed to say. And by the end of that conversation, we got to where we needed to go. Now, when it comes to children, and the reason I use an example of this man having a meltdown is that our meltdowns, whether we're big or small, come from the little one inside of us. Come from the little one who has needs, who can't necessarily say what they are. And I'm not infantilizing this man. He's grown. That's why he was able to have the conversation that we had eventually. And why I had the standard that I did, that he would eventually get there. But when it comes to our little ones, when we need them to rise up and they haven't done it before, we have to show them how. And so with him, I had to show him how by saying, I want to be respectful, and so I'm going to try to make eye contact with you. That's how I show respect. Can you look at me? I actually said that to him, and he stopped because he realized he wasn't even looking at me. He was looking at his hands, doing the quarter thing. And then he stopped looking at me. And so he had to actually stop what he was doing for just one moment. And he made eye contact with me and saw a person. But he had to be prompted. And our children aren't all that different. When we are having these moments where the child is super elevated and hyper excitable, coming down from that place, we have to give them prompts. And it doesn't have to be a lot of words. Sometimes the prompt is and taking a deep breath and showing them that breath. And maybe we hold them while we're taking that breath. And we give them the space to be in our breath until they're breathing deeply too. And this works with my child who's not even 2 yet. Right? When I need us to come down from a hyper excitable place, sometimes it means making eye contact with her and then being a little silly. Because sometimes it's hard to go from way up here to all the way to calm. Right? When we're really upset and we're really frustrated, to go straight to calm, that can be hard. So when I see that there's a lot of excitability and there's no coming back, then it's time for a tickle. Then it's time to get wiggly. Then it's time to get some of that energy out of our bodies, because I might be up there with her and I don't even feel it. So I stop myself and I use the emotion regulation tools that I have, from gentle parenting, from therapy, from DBT, from CBT, to bring myself down. And I bring her with me when I do that. When I show her those steps, when I get silly and I shake and I wiggle and I poke her and I tickle her and she gets all antsy from that. And then she shakes off that hijack, right? And she gets her mind to a place where she's connected and co-regulating with me. Then we do our deep breath. Then we connect. Then we can do our eye contact. Then we can rest and do a new activity, or we can rest and take a beat and come into our connected selves, come into who it is that we are as a unit, as a family. And the beautiful thing about a Montessori education is that all of those tools of social emotional learning are put at the forefront when it comes to how children interact with each other, how children interact with teachers, and how children will interact with the world, right? There's a sense of learning how to care for one another, how to understand our place within the environment that we happen to be located within. And then from there, how do we connect with the larger world? And what does it mean to have a global impact? What does it mean to go beyond the local, the individual, the personal, and to understand ourselves within a system of interconnectedness and interdependencies, not codependencies, interdependencies, right? Where what matters to you matters, and what matters to me matters, and what matters to us matters. And that there's different levels and layers to how we relate to one another. And that all of those levels and layers are valid and meaningful and important. And the beauty that I have seen in a Montessori education is that the children are learning that from day one. They learn about boundaries. They learn about being hyperexcited. They learn about the ebbs and flows of their emotions, and that those emotions aren't the tides that control them, but that they can see the rising tides and they can do something to change and shift those tides, that they are in control at the end of the day of the sea of emotions that are within them, that they don't have to be afraid of those. And then when they go out into the world and they engage with other people, they can do so from a place of empowerment. They can do so from a place of courage. They can do so from a place of peace and peaceability and peacefulness, and that they can spread that wherever they go. And as a Montessori mama, I have the deep pleasure of being a grown-up who is not only curating and cultivating that environment at home, but that even when I run into a cranky, creaky, aged beyond his years laundromat owner, that I can see the young man in him and speak to that and bring him out and let my little girl out, and that we can connect, we can have a good time, that everything ultimately is going to be all right, that we can invite each other into our spaces, and that there's something just so beautiful about it. And I know that's a little hokey, but I truly believe that in my gut, in my heart, in my soul, in my spirit. And I wanted to share that with you all. So I hope that you enjoyed the story. If you are enjoying the vibes of this channel, then go ahead and subscribe. I upload pretty regularly here. We are moving and grooving with this podcast vibe, and I hope that it has been a good experience for you. If you have any comments, any questions, don't be shy. Go ahead and pop them in the comment section below. I read them all. And I will be really excited to have you here in the next video. But for now, take care.